Welcome back to the Shigeaki Podcast. I'm Dr. Mark Hyman, and here we talk about how to live longer and stronger after 60, not with extreme changes, but with thoughtful, simple shifts in your daily rhythm. And today we're diving into something that may surprise a lot of you. Because for years you probably heard this message: if you want a healthy heart, eat more fish. And for the most part, that's good advice. But what if I told you that not all seafood is heart-friendly? And in fact, some kinds, especially when prepared, the wrong way can silently damage your arteries. Let me tell you a story. A few months ago, I had a patient, Richard, 66 years old. He had made big changes in his diet, gave up red meat, stopped eating fried food, drank less alcohol. I eat shrimp and grilled squid, sometimes mackerel. I love seafood, it's clean. But his labs told a different story. His LDL cholesterol was climbing. His triglycerides were up. His HSCRP, a marker of inflammation, was higher than expected. No junk food, no sugar. So, what was the problem? The problem was the wrong kind of seafood eaten the wrong way. And that's what this episode is all about, because seafood isn't one size fits all. Some fish can heal your heart. Others, especially when fried, salted, or consumed, too often can quietly raise your blood pressure, cholesterol, and risk of stroke. So, today we're going to walk through 5 kinds of seafood that can harm your heart after 60. 5 better options that reduce inflammation and support your arteries, and how to prepare seafood safely, the way long-living cultures like Japan have done for centuries. And as always, I'm joined by the soul of this podcast, a man whose life proves that healthy aging is not only possible, but deeply beautiful when lived with intention. Dr. Hinohara, welcome back.
Thank you, Dr. Hyman, and hello to all our listeners. Yes, this topic touches very closely to my experience in Japan, because seafood is a core part of our culture. We eat it nearly every day. But what people outside Japan may not realize is that we also eat it in a very specific, mindful way. I've seen many patients over the years who came to me thinking they were eating healthy, but their arteries told a different story. Shrimp fried in butter, salted mackerel every night, squid soaked in soy sauce and sugar. These things may feel familiar, comforting, even traditional. But after 60, your heart doesn't process them the same way. And sometimes the most dangerous food is the one we believe is safe.
That's such an important point. So, stay with us, because in the next segment, we'll explain why your body becomes more sensitive to certain types of seafood as you age, and how to recognize the difference between seafood that nourishes and seafood that quietly stresses your heart. Let's begin. Let's start with this. Truth: seafood is not inherently bad for your heart. But after 60, the way your body responds to certain types of seafood changes, and that matters. Why? Because as you age, your arteries become stiffer, your blood pressure becomes more reactive to sodium, your liver is less efficient at handling cholesterol, and your immune system becomes more sensitive to inflammation. So, a food that seemed fine at 40 could quietly create problems in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, especially if eaten the wrong way or too frequently.
Yes, and in Japan we observe this closely. Many of my patients eat seafood every day, which is not bad. But the moment they start eating too much dried fish, too much shrimp tempura, or salted squid, their blood pressure begins to rise, their ankles swell, their energy drops after meals. They say, "But doctor, it's only fish." And I remind them, fish is only healthy if your heart agrees.
Here's what makes certain seafood risky after 61. High cholesterol load. Shellfish like shrimp and squid contain high amounts of dietary cholesterol. While not harmful in small portions, excess intake, especially in people with metabolic syndrome, can raise LDL and triglycerides. 2. High sodium. Dried fish and preserved seafood can contain 300-500 mg sodium per serving. After 60, sodium is one of the fastest triggers of high blood pressure and fluid retention.
Too much sodium also stiffens the arteries. It doesn't just affect blood pressure, it affects how elastic your vessels are. That's why some people feel heavy or tired. After eating salty seafood, their circulation is being taxed.
3. Pro-inflammatory fats. Deep-fried seafood like shrimp tempura, Fried calamari or butter-fried fish absorbs oxidized oils. This can trigger endothelial inflammation, which damages the inner lining of blood vessels. 4. Purines and uric acid buildup. Seafood like crab and certain shellfish are high in purines. That increases uric acid, which contributes to both gout and low-grade systemic inflammation.
And there's one more risk that many forget: heavy metals. Larger fish like tuna swordfish and sometimes even mackerel can contain mercury, which is toxic to the brain and cardiovascular system, especially in older adults with reduced detox capacity. That's why we prefer small fish in Japanese cuisine: sardines, anchovies, shirasu. They are low on the food chain, low in mercury, and high in omega-3s.
So, what does this all mean in practical terms? It means that not all seafood is equal. And after 60, your heart asks 3 questions every time you eat fish. How much salt is in this? How was it cooked? And how often am I eating it? If the answers are very salty, deep fried, and every day, your heart might be quietly struggling.
But the good news is this is not hard to fix. You don't need to stop eating seafood. You simply need to choose wisely, cook simply, and rotate your sources. Because food after 60 is not just fuel. It is information, and your heart listens carefully. In the next part, we'll walk you through the 5 most common types of seafood that quietly harm your heart and why. Stay with us.
Now, let's get specific. Here are 5 types of seafood that sound innocent or even healthy, but when eaten too often or prepared the wrong way can quietly harm your heart. We'll break down the why, the risk, and how to replace or reduce each one. Guest 1, shrimp. Especially fried or in butter. Let's start with shrimp. Shrimp is low in calories, yes, but it's also very high in dietary cholesterol, about 180-200 mg per 100 gram. And that's not the real problem. The problem is how most people prepare it. Fried, covered in butter, tossed with creamy sauces, it turns into a cholesterol and saturated fat bomb, especially dangerous for older adults with borderline lipid profiles.
In Japan, we rarely fry shrimp, and when we do, it is small, shared, and infrequent. If someone eats fried shrimp 3 times a week, their body begins to store that cholesterol. The vessels narrow silently. How to fix it? Steam or grill shrimp. Serve with greens, not white rice, and oil. Limit to 1.5 times per week.
2. Squid and octopus. Especially salted or stir-fried squid is rich in protein and minerals, but also high in cholesterol and purines. When stir-fried in oil, salted heavily, or soaked in soy sauce, it becomes inflammatory. It's also rubbery, harder to digest for many older adults with slower gut motility.
Yes, and squid is very common in izakaya dishes in Japan, but we always pair it with daikon kyu kai trang to help with digestion. Without that balance, it becomes too rich for the aging heart. How to fix it? If you eat squid, boil it lightly. Don't pair it with salty sauces. Limit to small servings and chew thoroughly.
3. Salted fish and dried seafood. This one is sneaky. Fish that's been salted, dried, or fermented, or even salted mackerel can contain more than 1,000 mg of sodium per portion. That's half of your daily sodium limit in one small serving.
After 60, sodium becomes dangerous not just for blood pressure, but for the stiffness of your arteries. I've seen patients with swollen ankles, dizzy spells, and tired legs, not from disease, but from too much dried fish. How to fix it? Eat these sparingly, maybe once every 2 weeks. Soak dried fish in warm water to reduce sodium. Always drink extra water after consuming.
4. Crab. Especially in rich sauces. Crab feels luxurious, but it's also high in purines, which raise uric acid, a driver of inflammation and gout. And when eaten with heavy sauces, butter, garlic, curry, coconut milk, it becomes a burden on both the liver and the heart.
Yes, and for older adults, crab often leads to overnight swelling or joint pain, a sign the body is not clearing inflammation fast enough. How to fix it? Enjoy crab boiled, not sauced. Eat with warm vegetables to help circulation. Avoid late-night crab feasts. Your heart won't appreciate it.
5. Raw fish from unknown sources. Unregulated sushi sashimi. I know sushi is beloved. I love it too. But raw fish from unreliable sources carries the risk of parasites, heavy metals, and bacterial contamination. For younger people, that might just cause discomfort. But for people over 60 with weaker immunity and slower liver detox, it can trigger systemic inflammation and even increase cardiovascular stress.
In Japan, we eat sashimi, but only from trusted high-quality vendors. And we pair it with ginger wasabi and pickled vegetables, not for taste, but for antibacterial support. How to fix it? Eat raw fish only from trusted restaurants. Don't overdo it. 1-2 pieces, not 12. Add ginger or wasabi, not soy sauce, alone.
So, to recap the 5 seafoods to watch carefully after 60 are 1. Point shrimp, especially fried or buttery. 2. Has squid and octopus, especially salty or stir-fried. 3. Toit dried salted fish. 4. As crab in sauces or large quantities. 5. Raw fish from unknown sources. You don't need to fear these foods, but you do need to respect your heart's changing needs.
Food after 60 must be kind, and kindness means asking your body how it feels, not just how it tastes. In the next part, we'll share the 5 kinds of seafood that truly support heart health and how to make them a regular, joyful part of your meals. Let's continue.
Now that we've uncovered the hidden dangers, let's turn to the seafood that truly heals. Because yes, some fish and shellfish are more than safe. They're medicinal. These 5 have been studied, lived with, and recommended for decades. They're the reason elders in Japan and the Mediterranean enjoy better cholesterol profiles, blood pressure, and even cognitive health. Well into their 90s. Dr. Hinohara, what's the first one on your list?
The first is salmon, but not just any salmon wild caught. Salmon is incredibly rich in omega-3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA, which do 3 essential things: reduce inflammation in blood vessels, improve heart rate variability, and lower triglyceride levels. But the real magic of salmon is in its consistency. Seniors who eat fatty fish like salmon 2-3 times per week often experience more stable energy, less brain fog, and better circulation in the hands and feet.
In the U.S., I often recommend salmon to patients with arrhythmia or early atherosclerosis. It's like giving the arteries a soft massage from the inside. How to eat it: baked, steamed, or poached, not fried. Pair with greens and lemon to enhance nutrient absorption. Avoid smoked or overly salted versions. Oysters. Toast, 2. Sardines and other small oily fish. I love this one. Sardines are criminally underrated. They're low in mercury, rich in omega-3s, and packed with calcium, vitamin D, and CoQ10.
In Japan, sardines are often grilled, whole bones included, because the bones provide calcium in a form the aging body absorbs easily. Sardines also support mitochondrial energy, the power plants of your heart cells. More energy, better contraction, healthier rhythm. How to eat it: lightly grilled or packed in water, soaked olive oil. Mix into brown rice with ginger or chopped greens. 2 to 3 servings a week is plenty.
3. Scallops. Scallops are gentle, low in fat, and high in taurine, an amino acid that regulates electrolyte balance and blood pressure. They also support vascular flexibility, helping arteries expand and contract with ease. And unlike some richer seafood, scallops are easy to digest, making them ideal for older adults with slower metabolism.
That's key because digestion impacts nutrient availability. If your gut struggles, even the best fish can become a burden. But scallops are soft, subtle, and effective. How to eat it: lightly pan-seared in olive oil. Serve with steamed greens or seaweed. Avoid creamy sauces that hide the benefit.
4. Salmon oysters. Oysters are another overlooked gem. They're rich in zinc, vitamin B12, and selenium minerals essential for heart rhythm, vascular repair, and immune resilience. In fact, zinc deficiency in older adults has been linked to higher risk of atrial fibrillation and poor wound healing.
I've always said oysters are not just food, they're cellular architects. They rebuild slowly, steadily, especially in people with chronic inflammation or fatigue. How to eat it: Fresh is best. Check source safety. A drizzle of lemon, not heavy sauces, 1-2 times month is enough.
5. Anchovies and shirasu. These tiny fish may look insignificant, but they are some of the most powerful. They are low in toxins, high in iodine, calcium, and omega-3, and they're often eaten whole bones and all. In Japan, we sprinkle shirasu over rice or soup. They support thyroid function, bone strength, and microcirculation in small vessels.
That's so important. Most people think of big fish as best, but the small ones often carry the greatest reward. How to eat it: sprinkle on porridge or salads, mix into omelets or steamed rice, combine with magnesium-rich greens like spinach for synergy.
So let's recap. The 5 seafoods that protect your heart after 60 are 1. Wild-caught salmon, 2. Sardines and other small oily fish, 3. Scallops, 4. Oysters. 5. Anchovies or shirasu. They reduce inflammation, support circulation, and provide the micronutrients aging hearts crave.
After 60, the heart doesn't just need rest. It needs precision nourishment from the sea. These are not luxury foods. They are functional wisdom from cultures that have aged gracefully for centuries. In our next part, we'll guide you through how to choose, prepare, and pair these foods in a weekly rhythm that protects your heart gently but powerfully. Stay with us.
So far, we've talked about what seafood to avoid and which ones to embrace. But now comes the most important part: how to eat them. Because the truth is, even the healthiest fish can become harmful if we eat it the wrong way. After 60, it's not just what you eat, it's how and what you eat it with that determines whether it heals or harms. Dr. Hinohara, you've always said, food after 60 is not just nutrition, it's rhythm. Could you explain what that means?
Of course, Mark. After 60, our bodies lose some of their flexibility in the joints. Yes, but also in digestion, circulation, and metabolism. That means our meals must not only nourish, they must respect our new pace. For example, seafood eaten at night, especially fried or salty seafood, often leads to restlessness, poor sleep, and even irregular heart rhythms. Why? Because digestion slows at night, and the heart doesn't want to work overtime while you sleep. So in Japan, we eat seafood earlier in the day, lunch or early dinner at the latest. We also avoid heavy sauces or big portions. We treat fish like a guest welcome, but never overstaying.
That's such a beautiful image, treating fish like a guest. So let's break this down for our listeners. First, timing. If you're eating seafood late after 8 p.m. and it's heavy, spicy, or fried, that's a problem, especially for someone managing blood pressure or heart rhythm. Eat your seafood meals during lunch or no later than 6:30 p.m. Give your body time to process it before sleep.
Yes, and not just that, the way we prepare seafood matters just as much. In Japan, we rarely deep fry fish for seniors. We steam it, we grill it lightly, we poach it in broth. These gentle methods protect the nutrients and avoid stress on digestion. Fried fish like shrimp tempura or crispy calamari not only adds harmful fats, it also triggers inflammation. That's especially dangerous after 60, when the body already fights silent inflammation every day.
Right. And I tell my patients all the time, your pan matters more than your plate. If you cook salmon in olive oil with lemon and herbs, it becomes medicine. If you fry it in butter and salt it heavily, it becomes a burden. So, let's give our listeners some quick examples. Steam salmon with bok choy and ginger grill sardines with lemon and olive oil. Simmer scallops in a clear broth with mushrooms and greens. These are simple, but they support energy circulation and even mental clarity.
And don't forget what you eat with it. This is often ignored in Western meals. If you eat fish with white rice, sweet sauce, and alcohol, it weakens the benefit. But if you combine seafood with bitter greens, radish, seaweed, or even a squeeze of citrus, you help your body absorb the nutrients better and reduce inflammation. For example, in Japan, we serve grilled mackerel with grated daikon and miso soup. The bitter and fermented flavors calm the gut. The warmth helps circulation, and the result is a lighter, clearer feeling after the meal.
That's something I really want our listeners to take to heart. Your pairings matter. Fish plus fiber, fish, paus, bitter greens, fish, paus, fermented foods. These combinations turn a good meal into a healing ritual. Now, let's talk about portions, because I've seen older adults overdo even the healthy seafood.
That's true. After 60, the rule is small and often. You don't need to eat fish every day, and certainly not in big slabs. 3 to 4 small servings per week is enough. Each portion should be about the size of your palm, not a plateful. And rotate. Don't eat salmon every day. Try sardines one day, scallops the next, then skip a day. Your body thrives on diversity, not repetition.
And I would add one more piece: mindfulness. Don't eat seafood while distracted on the go or in front of the TV. Sit down, chew slowly, savor the flavor. Give your digestive system a calm environment to work. It's not just about what goes into your mouth. It's also about how your body receives it.
Beautifully said. Eating should feel like a message to the body. When you combine the right fish, the right method, and the right rhythm, it becomes medicine for the heart.
So, here we are, at the end of a conversation I wish more people had sooner, because seafood is one of those things we assume is always good. It sounds light, natural, better than red meat. So, here we are at the end of a conversation I wish more people had sooner, because seafood is one of those things we assume is always good. It sounds light, natural, better than red meat. You've been listening to the Shigeaki Podcast, where health after 60 isn't about slowing down, it's about shifting with grace. If today's episode gave you something to think about, hit subscribe to hear from us each week, share this with a friend who eats seafood but never thought it could affect their heart, and leave us a review. It helps us reach more people aging with intention. Until next time, I'm Dr. Mark Hyman.